Hey everyone, Rob here. Today I will be talking to you guys about John Ruskin, as I've labeled him the people's critic. Ruskin was a very popular critic in Victorian Britain, who covered just about everything in his writing. Today I will be focusing on his writing about art and art history, which is what he is most well known for, but he also covered economics. He was a big proponent in the Gothic revival, and that not the Gothic literature revival, but Gothic architecture. He was a big proponent of restoration of Gothic architecture and kind of reverting to this previous ideal of architecture that has gone away at this point due to the Industrial Revolution and changing society in general. He was also a close friend and associate of the Pre-Raphaelites, with whom he influenced a lot and shared a lot of philosophical ideals. This portrait on the left is painted by John Everett Millais, one of the most famous Pre-Raphaelite painters. Funny enough, his once wife later on married John Everett Millais. Unimportant but funny. Just shows the connection between the two groups. But yeah, today I will be focusing on some of his writing about art, specifically modern painters. The first volume, but he published 5 volumes of this between 1843 and 1860. The first volume, which I'll be looking at, was written out of admiration in defense of the British master, J.M.W. Turner, Joseph William, or Joseph my Lord William Turner, for those who are curious. But yeah, I will get into that shortly. Well, it would be pretty impossible for me to go over all of volume one of Modern Painters in this short amount of time because it's over 450 pages. I'll just begin with this. At the start of Modern Painters, Ruskin sought to create a definition of greatness in art. Critical to this definition of art are these 5 ideas that can be received from works of art. So I'll start with ideas of power. The simple perception of mental or bodily powers exerted in art, namely the idea of excellence representing a great power needed for production. Pretty profound, but essentially the ability to see the work exerted in a piece of art connotes to excellence in art. Second is the ideas of imitation, what the perception that the thing produced resembles something else. Or to go further into it, when something resembles something enough to nearly deceive, we receive a feeling of pleasurable surprise that comes from it. Or when the first evidence of that sense is contradicted by the second. In simpler terms, Ruskin says, that is not what it seems to be. Third, ideas of truth. Truth lies in reference to both material qualities, but also emotions and thought, which separate it from ideas of imitation. Whatever can excite the mind in the conception of facts can give ideas of truth. An idea of truth exists in one attribute of anything, whereas ideas of imitation must fully recreate what they are imitating. You can receive the idea of truth from simply one item, like a couple line strokes representing a tree. Fourth is the idea of beauty. Any material object which can give us pleasure in the contemplation of its outward qualities without exertion of intellect is beautiful. So, say I go outside and I see a tree blowing in the wind and I enjoy it. That is beautiful to Ruskin. Lastly, ideas of relation. Perception of intellectual relations in the thing produced or in what it suggests or resembles. So, this differs in ideas of beauty in that it takes perception and not perception, but exertion of intellectual powers to enjoy. So it takes deep thought before you or upon seeing it to determine its beauty. Um, Shifting now to the end of volume one of Modern Painters, I think this passage really uh, emblematizes what Ruskin sought out to achieve in Modern Painters Volume 1. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, much of this was in defense of J.M.W. Turner and the 400 pages in between what I just spoke about in this go really deep into critical art theory. So I won't bore you with that. But this last sentence is really important and stands out as one of Ruskin's long-lasting influences. Their duty is neither to choose, nor compose, nor imagine, nor experimentalize, but to be humble and earnest in following the steps of nature, tracing the finger of God. So I think this really goes back to that idea of truth and this demonstration of truth in art. And this last sentence, as I mentioned earlier, his connection with the pre-Raphaelites, this is a sentence that really emblematizes that. And when he says tracing the finger of God, the connection for Ruskin between God and nature is incredibly strong. And so while it's not overtly said here, when he says tracing the finger of God, he means sticking to the truth of nature, and that a great artist will fully commit to truthfully presenting nature as it is seen in the world. Um, Unfortunately, this text is really theoretically heavy, and I know I didn't do the best job of summarizing it. But unfortunately, that is the nature of Ruskin. A lot of his works are really interconnected, and you have to go through his whole catalog to kind of fully understand his ideas. But I hope I was able to give a good enough presentation of his first work that really popularized him, and brought him to the forefront of art criticism and other things as well. Yeah, that's about all I got. Thanks.